Welcome to the Let's Talk Leadership podcast, how leaders think, grow, and show up. I'm Karen Colligan, founder of PeopleThink. And for more than 2 decades, I've worked with leaders across industries, helping them grow into the leader their next level requires. Here's what I know for sure. Every single leader is unique. Leadership is shaped by your experiences, by your values, and by your strengths. And that's why on this podcast, I ask every guest the same 7 questions, because the answers reveal how real leaders think, grow, and show up. So listen closely, take what resonates, use it to shape your own leadership path. And now it's time for the TAWK 7. Same 7 questions, different leaders, different insights every time. Let's talk leadership with our next guest. In this episode, I'm thrilled to be speaking to Kevin Deasy, the Fractional Director and Senior Management Consultant in IT Digital Transformation. We're going to hear all about Kevin's approach to leadership. So Kevin, welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So Kevin, before we get into all this and to understand what a fractional director and senior management consultant in IT digital transformation is, tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into the TAWK 7.
Well, I'm from Cork in Ireland.
Yeehaw!
Yeah, so definitely the best place in Ireland, Cork. And I went to PBC, which would be a very, very good school. A lot of people would know it because a lot of the rugby team, the Irish rugby team, would have gone to that school. A guy called Dermot Desmond, who's a really big international business guy, went to that school, and Cillian Murphy went to that school. So
Okay.
he was behind me in school. I didn't know him. He wasn't famous then.
I guess not.
But, it produces interesting characters like that.
Yes.
I went to UL, University of Limerick, studied business and Japanese, economics, and I did HR as well as an additional item. And then I went abroad. I did travel in America, and then I went to London and I worked in banking, investment banking, worked my way up with Deutsche Bank, who were one of the biggest banks in the world at the time. They sent me to Frankfurt, where I was an internal consultant in operations control, basically implementing systems to mitigate against risk for trading commodities, trading of currencies, all those different things. And eventually I went off to travel, came back to Ireland, worked in the hedge fund industry, got to work in the continent again, time in America, Curacao in the Caribbean, which is quite good. And did various things then again. Back to London, worked in for Barclays Capital and ran operations control, change management in Barclays Capital, was an IT director of a hedge fund. Went back and did big tech, Hewlett Packard. Then I worked in a company that was the second fastest growing IT company in the world after Facebook, VCE, and I did their digital transformation to back up all their business activities. Ran my own business, won a couple of awards, won an international award. Then I decided that I'd achieved what I wanted in that. Went into a totally new field, clinical research, basically all the investigations and the work to basically test new drugs and new products and stuff like that and run trials. And at the moment, what I'm doing is, in the main, I am implementing systems that support all the activities on a global basis for particular companies, both in Europe and in America, nearshoring, as well as doing some fractional CEO work in various companies, pan industry, So that's where I am. Then that's my background.
Wow. And so what's really interesting about what you're speaking about, Kevin, is the fact that you really have had not a linear career. And I think that's really important for the listeners to recognize because in this day and age, people are thinking, well, what am I going to do in 5 years? Well, I always think, well, who knows what's going to happen in 5 years? Let's really start to pay attention to what's happening for you now so that you can make the correct and good decisions for yourself to move to another a position, another opportunity. And it sounds like that's just what you did. So this is the kind of conversation that really thrills me because I know that you've got a wealth of information around leadership because you've been in so many different industries, you've been in so many different countries and cultures, and that makes a huge difference. So thank you for that. And let's get into our talk 7. That's what I have to say. So the first question is, Kevin, there's so many ways to define leadership, and it's so personal to each individual. And so tell us, what's your definition of leadership? How do you think about leadership when you go in, especially as a fractional anything, because you're going into a different company with different cultures? So what's your definition?
There are many different definitions of leadership. Like for me,
Yes.
like leadership is about being with a group of people and effectively influencing or guiding them to go and to do something, to bringing them together and go in a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
The other way that I would describe it is it's more about inspiring people to bring them on a journey to deliver something.
Yeah. And no matter what happens as an individual, if we are not inspired to go on that journey, we will go. It might be reluctantly, and therefore you will not get the best of us. So the whole inspiring and
Yeah.
influencing, just as you
I,
said, is so important.
I think that there's sometimes it's good to talk about what it's not to give it
Ah,
context because what it's not explains why there's such a lack of leadership in the world today. Like because management is the opposite to leadership. And
mhm.
management is about command and control and about basically having people who report to you and ensuring they get tasks done.
Yes, yes,
And a lot of people who are managers believe that they're leaders, but they're completely different things. A
agree.
person doesn't need to have an official title to be a leader. Like when you think about people, like if you think about Mahatma Gandhi and people like that, a lot of the time they were doing things not because they had particular positions of authority, but because they had such charisma and people thought about them so much that they were willing to follow what they themselves were trying to achieve.
Yeah. And it goes back to what you said. Not only do they have charisma, but they are inspiring to where the group is going, why the group is going there. It's their vision and it's about seeing something that maybe other people don't. And then once they begin to articulate it, you think, "Oh my goodness, I do see that. I do want to give my best. I do want to do what I can in order to follow and really obtain that vision."
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think it's the words are one thing, but actions and also like charisma, like are other things as well. But when you say something, you have to back it up by doing it. And sometimes
Yes.
leaders, they basically they inspire not by words but by actions.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
if you think of there's a great story about Alexander the Great, and he was crossing back through the deserts from that India back over west again after he had done his conquest there. But they were running out of water, and one of his lieutenants gave him a helmet of water when his own troops had no water. He got he got the helmet and he turned it upside down
Mm-hmm.
in front of the troops. And what he was communicating there was, without using words, he said, if you're going to die of thirst, I am going to die of thirst too.
Yes. Yes.
And that was the epitome of good leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas what we have today is a lot of people, particularly, in the corporate world, and unfortunately in world leadership, we have people who basically they say things, but they do the opposite or they don't follow through.
Right.
And that's what people are looking for today. They're looking for people who will actually, they'll do what they say they're going to do.
And again, we could stay on this subject the entire time we're talking. And that's why it's so important, Kevin, when I talk to people, whether I'm on a podcast or I'm in front of a group, about how critical it is for each person to really understand who they are as a leader and define that for themselves. So in fact, they can continue to move forward in their career. So, okay, so for that, number
Well,
two,
there's one thing I could say to you there. One thing that really supports leadership, if you don't mind me adding to it,
please.
is a thing called metacognition. Metacognition is to be able to think about what you think about. So to be able to think if you're doing a project, like, how am I going to do this? What approach am I going to take? And while you're doing it, how is this going for me? And afterwards, when you've done, review what you've done to make sure what you did worked well.
Hmm. Yep.
Like, and that's about being self-aware. Like good leaders are self-aware, so that when
Yes.
things change, they can change with it.
Well, that's the whole thing with self-awareness. Then what happens is by having self-awareness, then adapt, being able to adapt and make decisions based on the information coming to them is very, very important. Just because I make a decision as a leader doesn't mean that this is we're going to stand true to it. I have to continue to take in information. I have to take in, what's going on in the world, and then I might have to adapt that decision. So good leaders are self-aware and good leaders can also adapt. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get to the values question. And for me, Kevin, when I think about values, I think about it as our North Star. I think about that helps us make the easy decisions, but more importantly, it helps us make the more complicated decisions. So what are your top three values?
I think that you need to approach things, you need to collaborate with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you need to have compassion when
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing things. I think also you need to be able to communicate, You have
So
to basically have that they're the values of the values of people want to be included, what people want to have their
mm,
voice heard, and they want to have their opinions respected. Leadership is about, trying to bring people on a journey, but you don't have to hold all the directions. You can leverage off other people, and you get more out of people if they feel their voice is heard. So quite a lot of communication is not actually you talking, it's you listening. It's you
mm.
hearing. It's hearing somebody else communicate to with you. And that gets more out of the whole situation, I think, anyway.
Yes. And communicating, and then also listening to dissension, people who don't always agree with you. So that for me, when I think about leadership and I think about teams, I think about how important it is to have open communication and be able to really tell your truth. So if it is not in agreement with someone else, you can have a conversation, you can have a debate, and you can get to the next level of whatever you're trying to get to. If I'm so closed that I'm not listening to you because you don't agree with me, that's not good for me, you, the project, the organization, and I could go on and on. So having your three C's, collaborate, compassion, and communicate, putting them all together.
So some of my best friends and some of my best confidants are people that we disagree about fundamental things.
Yes.
They're not afraid. They're not frightened to tell me about their opinions about stuff, and I'm not frightened to tell them I respect your opinion, but I don't agree with you. Or,
Yes.
people who will tell you the truth, even though when you don't want to hear it, are often your best
Yes.
friends.
Well, the worst leaders are the ones who surround themselves with people who are just going to yes them to death. The best leaders are the ones who hire people smarter than them who are going to push them a little bit. No question
Mm.
about
But
that.
that's the problem with ideology today. Like, the people are of ideologies of whether it's one side or the other. But I believe they're both as bad as each other because basically having an ideology is basically allowing other people to do your thinking for you. Like, for the people that I try and work with, I always try and ask them, think for yourselves.
Yes.
Think for yourself. What do you think? Or
Yeah.
even my kids, like who are still quite young, I tell them, what do you think? Don't let other people tell you stuff. You know,
Yes.
ask the question.
Have
You
an
push
opinion.
back.
Yeah.
That's the important thing because the people who do that are the people who will really excel in the world. And more so now when we live in a world that's going towards AI, it's going to be the people who can communicate
Mm-hmm.
and who are good with other people. They're the ones who are going to thrive. Not the geeky, techie, you
Mm-mm.
know,
Mm-mm.
they're not
Well,
going to go.
no, so that you're singing my song here because what I always talk about accelerating the human connection in a digital world. You cannot outsource leadership. You just can't. So I don't care where AI is going. We need strong leaders to continue to bring us there. But I don't want to digress because I could talk about that all day. Let's get to the third question. So, Kevin, what's the best advice you were ever given as a leader?
Well, it's referred advice because
Okay.
when I worked in Dallas, I was very lucky to work with a guy. So I was a program manager, and I had a project manager working for me, an American guy, but he was a very Americans are great people. I love America, to be honest. But you get all different types of people. But he was the type of American person. He was a very intellectual American
Mm,
person,
uh-huh.
very intellectual. And he was up from like the border with Canada, he's up around Michigan area and stuff like that. So he wasn't that kind of, his accent was nearly like Canadian more than
Uh-huh.
American, I would say. So he was a different type of a person anyway. But he told me that he worked for Perot Systems, and everybody in Perot Systems got a chance to ask Ross Perot a question.
Mm-hmm.
And he got to cast a question in the foyer of one of the buildings as Ross Perot was walking out, and he said, "Mr. Perot, what's your best advice that you could give in business?" And Ross Perot just turned over his shoulder and he said, "Surround yourself with people who are better than yourself." That
Mm-hmm.
was it.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it earlier, and I really believe it. Like wherever I go, I seek out the people who are better than me, and I try to get them to be with me
Mm-hmm.
because I'm learning. Like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an ego that says that I have to be the smartest person in the room, or that I have to have the best ideas, or that my ideas have to basically take over,
Yes.
you know.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Just as a side note, I lived in Dallas and I worked at EDS when Ross Perot was in charge of it. So
Well,
maybe through osmosis, that's where I got that from. Yes.
well, believe it or not, I worked with a lady, and her name was Linda Swayze. This has gone back a good few years now, and we were working together for about 6 months. And eventually, I'd be the kind of person I can be a little bit impulsive in a good way, I think. And I just said to her, "Look, Linda, do you mind me if I ask you a question?" I said, "Are you related to Patrick Swayze?" And she said, "I am. I'm his aunt."
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, wow." And I said, "Do you mind me ask, did you ever dance with him?" And she said, "No." She said, "Oh, we were at so many family events and everything." And she said, "I really regret that I never did it."
Isn't that funny? You never know.
It's,
That's why you have to talk to people. Yes,
yeah. It's just,
absolutely.
and yeah, she was, and she also knew Lance Armstrong.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, he had used to be like her when she played tennis in the country club or whatever. She used to give him a few dollars, and he used to be the ball boy. So she knew
Oh,
him.
wow. Wow. Yeah. You never know who you're going to meet along the way. That's
Never
for
know,
sure.
never, never know.
All right. So, number four, we're currently going through an enormous amount of transition and change globally, and we don't need to talk politics here. However, how do you lead through transition and change? Because no matter where we are in our life, in our career, in our whatever organization we work for, there's always going to be transition and change. So, how do you lead through transition and change?
I see. I mean, I try and apply that kind of metacognition kind of approach. Like, it's like with anything, it's like, what approach am I taking here? When I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing it, how am I doing? And afterwards, I try and evaluate. Like with all the AI and all that, like, I mean, I'm a big advocate of AI, but you have to
Sure.
realize it's not going to solve tomorrow's problems.
Mm.
And really,
Right.
what is it? It is a tool, right? But people, I think, get mixed up about what it can and what it can't do. Like,
Yes.
and in the AI to a certain degree, as people use it today, it's an aid to get things done quicker. So, like, it's like
Yes.
if you can run, imagine that AI is like a motorbike or whatnot. It gets you faster there. It gets
Yeah.
there, powers you there quicker. But it's only as good as the prompts that you give it. But
Exactly.
as well as that, you have people at executive levels in companies, and they're just thinking now AI, 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 and it's like every fad that's come along. They
Yes.
talk about the cloud, and everyone's talking about the cloud,
Yes.
all this kind of stuff. But it's not like it's how you use it, and you have to
Yes.
think about how you're going to use it, and also you're going to have. It can be a very useful item in terms of let's say you can have a strategy for a corporation. AI can help you implement that strategy because it can be the glue between departments and functions to make things happen. But it's still all that stuff comes back to you need to have the more complicated something is, the more simple approach you have to have.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamentals always must be very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Three items, so my three questions are that: what's my approach? How is it going? Did it work? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
what you have to do. You have to bring it back. You have to bring it back.
Back to basics.
Back to basics,
Back
yes.
to basics. Yeah, and the other thing I always think about when I think about transition is why. What's the why? Like why are we going through that? And that would fit in your approach place. This is how we're going to approach, but let's talk about the why of how we got here because people get confused about that, Kevin. And transition scares people because what is it about? All about me. What about me? What about me? And so it's almost like you have to calm everybody's nerves before they can think again to be able to move forward with the strategy.
Well, I think you're right because digital transformation, probably one of the biggest obstacles to digital transformations within an organization is resistance to change.
Yeah.
So the psychology of change and implementing change management and working with people to say we're bringing this change in. It's not for you to lose your job. It's for you to be freed up to do more quality stuff and take away the boring stuff.
Hmm. Yeah.
That can be quite liberating for people as long as it's true,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. Yes.
Because you have to consider like you have to consider that things are changing digitally so quickly that many people are losing their jobs.
Yes.
But there's two ways to approach that. You can deny it and you can try and resist it, or you can try and look at what's happening and things are changing in real time. They're not awake. They're not awake at many levels. People are not awake. But one thing they're not awake about is that AI and robotics are going to fundamentally change society, like the Industrial Revolution changed society. We are going
Correct.
to have a lot of people who are not doing jobs that they did
Correct.
like in a few years.
Right.
It's a really scary thing, but that's why if you position yourself as we seem to be aligned, and I totally agree with you, you have to be that person who can leverage off interpersonal skills. It's
Yes.
the only way that you're going to survive is
Yes.
if you are the person who is the project leader, the people person, the strategy person, that's where we're going to be going. Like,
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I
and
couldn't.
and the challenge with all of that is that in some ways younger people coming through are fantastic, but in other ways, right, ironically, because of the digital
Yes.
transformation, their communication skills are absolutely on the floor. They're terrible.
Yes. Yeah.
They can't communicate. It's going to be the ones that are coming through from that generation who can talk, who are
Mhm.
personable, who want to engage face to face. They're going to be the people who are really going to thrive.
Yeah. I talk about the soft skills and I call them the power skills because the power skills, which is what we're talking about, is what's going to make or break someone's career right now. And you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to understand conflict and work through conflict. You have to be able to be visionary. You have to be a team player, creative. I mean, I could go on, and lots of organizations, lots of people talk about the soft skills. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. Power skills are going to make a distinction for the people as we continue in this digital revolution. There is no question about it. All righty. So number 5, we know the best leaders are curious and always learning. So what do you do? How do you learn?
Oh my God.
Uh-oh.
I learned through
Uh-oh.
everything.
Uh-oh. We're in for it, listeners.
I mean, I like to read.
Yeah,
I love to
okay.
read history, I mean, I have various things. I like to read and I like to write. You might see a lot of the stuff that I write on LinkedIn, and I've had various websites, that where I would add content. I would talk about people who were inspirational leaders and stuff like that. That
Mm,
really, there was a guy called, believe it or not, there was a guy called Captain James Riley. He was a merchant seaman from the American Merchant Navy. And in the
mm-hmm.
early 1800s, he was shipwrecked with his crew off the coast of Morocco. And
Oh,
he was enslaved
oh,
by African slavers, believe
oh,
it or not. And over the course of many months and a lot of hardship, he basically he managed to negotiate the release of both himself and many of the people that were part of his crew because they were all
wow.
enslaved.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and the kind of the leadership that he had to bring his guys, motivate them, keep them alive, deal with all the obstacles, basically negotiate out. It was a fabulous, fabulous thing. And he wrote a book, basically. It was the bestseller in America for donkey's years. It was republished 18 times, and Abraham Lincoln picked it up. And it
Wow.
started his Lincoln's journey on the whole concept of the emancipation from slavery. And ironically, it was actually a man of Irish extraction, obviously named Riley, a white guy who had been enslaved in Africa, who inspired Abraham Lincoln to change his views on slavery.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, I like to read that. I read a lot of stuff, books about like Alexander the Great, as I said, I quoted him earlier. All his different leadership styles, by action, by words. He had
Mm,
a time when he had a mutiny in a place called Opus, and he spoke in such a way that he basically, that was one time he actually used words to change his troops' mind about all the things they've done, how they'd suffered together, and how they had to stay together. The other things, I mean, believe it or not, like there's a lot of content on YouTube about leadership and about history and about
yeah.
business and different things like that. And I would leverage off that as well
Yeah.
as looking at things on the internet that are business related and stuff like that. And just reading books. I
Yeah.
like to read books and I love to read educational magazines and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you have to read like Warren Buffett and his Charlie, I can't remember his surname, the guy that he had Berkshire Hathaway with, they read
Yeah.
obsessively for about 2 or 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I do that. I really, I like to read many things, many different sources. Some stuff that I agree with, some stuff I don't agree with. But it's important to read lots of different stuff, and that stuff that provides an inspiration and an energy to do stuff, but also an ideas like to think about business and like how to best approach things
Well,
based on.
Kevin, yeah, and it goes back to what you tell your kids. You have to think for yourself. And you can't think for yourself if you don't hear differing opinions that are not exactly the same as you. So, I mean, it goes back to how you're raising your children. Yeah. Think for
Well,
yourself.
yeah, the Greeks, like when the Greeks philosophers and ancient Greeks would get together, they would talk about they would have to a debate and they would have like thesis and antithesis, and then through that process they would come to a synthesis, which would
Uh-huh.
be when two opposing people debate about stuff, they normally come to some kind of mutually beneficial conclusion.
Yeah.
But it's like anybody, even your personal person in your life or good friends, you quite often could have an argument. And after the argument, like there's a better understanding,
Yes, of course.
you
Yeah,
know.
and a
It's
mutual respect too. Yeah.
and a
Yes.
mutual respect, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to stand up for yourself, you know.
Yeah.
In life,
Yeah.
you have to stand up for yourself. That's one
Yeah.
thing I tell my children, like it's all not all going to be beautiful and nice. Sometimes there are going to be people who are going to try to be bad to you. And you have to tell them that it's not all right,
Yeah.
that
Those
you're not going to
boundaries.
accept it, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's
Yes.
it, yeah.
Yeah. Good. Love it. Okay. So our sixth question. So for me, when I think about leadership, I think about it's really important to be a whole person. And
Yeah.
so, what piece of art or music or like what brings you joy? Because if we don't have joy, Kevin, like why bother? So, what fills you up?
Oh, well, I mean, a lot of different things do. I have a dog, like, and I love walking my dog.
Uh-huh. Yeah, oh yeah.
I mentioned, a couple of things went wrong as well. I used to do a lot of exercise and, I've had a few setbacks and I've come back. And my latest craze now is doing hot yoga. And I just
Nice.
find it very, very good because it's extremely challenging.
Yes.
It's very, very challenging. And I know that I'm only doing it a while. But if I was doing it even another so many years, I know that all the time I did it, that there would be challenges every time I did it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that has really become something for me. I love to swim in the sea.
Mm.
It's a great stress buster for me. I love Irish music.
Uh,
I love Irish music, yeah.
yeah.
All different types, from the new to the old to the
Uh-huh.
ancient. I love it,
Yeah.
and I love Irish history and Irish archaeology. I studied it by night. I have a great passion for it. I just don't think people realize how far back Irish history goes and how
Mm.
unique a people that we are, like in the
Mm.
world, from a DNA perspective to basically all the different things that went wrong and how durable Irish people have been
Oh,
and continue to be in a very difficult world.
yes. Yes, with a name
And
like Colligan, durable. I love that word. Yes, indeed.
and
Durable we are.
the other thing is sport. Like I love sport, like, I really do. And I love rugby, and I love like something that American people are probably not that aware of, but it's called hurling.
Uh-huh.
So it's like a national sport here, it's an ancient sport. It goes back thousands of years. You could maybe make a certain comparison with lacrosse. Um, and it has that kind of aggressive, physical, but extremely skillful game.
Uh-huh.
And it's done on a county basis. So Cork is obviously my county, and they traditionally have been one of the strongest, if not the strongest, but they've gone through a bad time, a
We
bit
all
like
do.
a bit like the Boston Red Sox were for many years. They couldn't get to the Holy Grail, but there's been a lot of disappointments, but there's incredible joy to go and watch it and to see people do something which is so skillful,
And
um,
strategy. It's all
and
about
brings so
strategy. Yeah.
much happiness to people.
Uh-huh.
It's a great way to switch off and enjoy something unique.
Yes. There is like so you just said walking your dog, exercise, hot yoga, swim in the sea, Irish music, history, archaeology, sports. So filling yourself up doesn't seem to be a problem, Kevin, which is
I
goodness.
mean,
It's
um,
goodness.
and my family as well, obviously,
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah.
I love to do things. We just came back from Wales. We were in Wales at the weekend. My daughter was playing in a rugby tournament. We
Nice.
got the ferry over. I got to see, ancient sites as in on the travels, that's a
Yeah.
Celtic country as well. Celt, I mean, being a Celt as well is a huge part of my, that I feel very strongly about the Celtic nations of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Cornwall. Brittany, they're a very strong, going back thousands of years, connection to the point where like I and a friend of mine, Clive Bernard, have worked on something called the Celtic Alliance. We're
Huh?
basically about to launch it, and that is bringing all the Celtic people together to support one another, to talk about
Nice.
culture, to talk about language, to
Nice.
talk about our history, to
Beautiful.
support business within that network, you know?
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what
Love
I'm
that. Good. You got
passionate
all,
about as well.
got all kinds of things going on. All right. So that brings us to the final question in the Talk 7. Do you have a favorite quote?
Oh yeah, I totally do.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this one.
So there's a Chinese like philosopher. He was like he had so many different expressions, but like for a person who, I feel like I'm, a senior program manager. I've run project teams, I've been an IT director, whatever, director of companies, whatever. But the most important thing is like being a leader within a group and different things. Is like his expression was a leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his
Mm,
work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, "We did it ourselves." Now, that's the eloquent way of saying that. When I'm involved in things, often at the start, I've got my sleeves rolled up and I'm involved in everything and I'm helping with everything. That's like farming. It's storming is, people are getting
yeah.
involved and, there's sometimes a bit of emotions are heightened and stuff and different things are going on. Then there's performing.
Yeah.
That's when everything is going well. People are getting cohesive. There's a flow. And then there's norming. So what I think about it is like you're like in a room and as things get better, you go to the back of the class and you let the people who've been on you with the project, you let them take the plaudits and you just walk away.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really interested. I know I said I won some awards. I say that to say it. I don't really care about anything like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, getting stuff like winning stuff or whatever, medals, different things that never really interested in me. I was always interested in did I think I did a good job?
Yes. Love that. Love
Did I
that.
think could I look at myself in the mirror and go, did I do it? Did I give my best shot? And if I
Hmm.
did, I was happy.
Did I give my best shot? Love that. And what a wonderful way to end our conversation today. So thank you for walking us through the Talk 7, Kevin, and sharing your leadership insights with us. So what I love about this is that if the listeners really listened, what we talked about was leadership throughout. And we use the word leadership, and leadership is so much more. So I'm very grateful, Kevin, that you brought us on this little journey. You brought us in and out. And that's what Let's Talk Leadership is all about. So
Uh,
thanks. And
no,
for
I really
everyone,
enjoyed it. Thank you. I like
yeah.
the kind of thing with me, Karen, is I can be a bit eclectic, so I start going off and talking about different things.
Well, that's good. That's what it's all about. And that's what the listeners need to understand is that we are all different and unique. And that's why we have this podcast. So
Oh yeah.
thank you so much. So
No, thank you. I just
yeah.
really enjoyed it.
So for everybody else, thanks for listening. And I'm Karen Colligan, and you've been listening to Kevin Deasy, who is a fractional director and senior management consultant in IT digital transformation. One leader, 7 questions, a lot to think about. And if this conversation made you pause, did it make you think or smile? Hit subscribe and share it with someone who leads. And when you're ready to invest in your leadership, you'll find Keep It Real Leadership on the People Think website. Till the next episode of the Let's Talk Leadership podcast, have a good one. And don't forget to keep it real and lead with impact. Editing by Mary Lee Williams. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks so much. Bye now.